We started our journey from Singapore, where we flew into Guangzhou, did an airport transit, and eventually landed up in Kunming. From there, we travelled on to Dali, and then to Lijiang, where we hired a private driver that took us around Shangri-La, Deqing, and then back around the attractions around Lijiang area before we flew out to Lijiang Airport back to Guangzhou, where we transited and eventually went back to Singapore. We chose Kunming to be the first stop of our trip, mainly because it had the lowest altitude out of all of the places that we're going to visit, so this gave our bodies enough time to acclimatize to the differences in altitude before we moved on to higher ground. We flew in by China Southern Airlines, and while I wouldn't say it's the best airline in the world, I think the food and the seats were alright, so we don't really have anything to complain about in that aspect. And when we reached Kunming, the first stop that we made was of course at Kunming Old Street, which is where most of the eating and shopping places are located at in the city itself. So we had some really good tangyuan at this place that came highly recommended. The tangyuans are cooked in tea, so that's something that was pretty unique to us. And of course we stopped by Duiyuelou to get that famous iconic IG scene, and then we also stopped by this other place called Liu Huan Xiaochi, where we got to sample a little platter of various delicacies that they have in Yunnan. The second part of our Kunming trip was mainly centered around attractions relating to natural scenery and all that. So we started off at Dianchi, which is kind of like this giant lake reservoir thing where there are supposed to be seagulls from Siberia who visit Kunming during certain months of the year, but unfortunately we weren't there during the right months. We were also supposed to take a cable car from Dianchi all the way to Chamahuajie, but unfortunately the cable car was down the day that we visited, so we took a shuttle bus, went up to the street where as usual you have all your shops and restaurants selling souvenirs and food and all that. So it was quite a bustling area, and this is actually the home ground of the base for people who are intending to head up to Xishan Longmen, which is this forest mountainous recreational area. So you do have to take this pretty interesting cable car up, and then of course the highlight of the trip is getting to see the famous Longmen. So after we descended from Longmen, we went down to take a look at Cuihu, which is where a lot of the locals kind of treat as their national or city park. They do exercises there, they have fun, they bring their families, so it's a very family-friendly kind of place where you see lots of children running around. And at the same time, we also checked out this place called the Yunnan Military Academy History Museum, where they have some military performances going on sometimes, and also this really cute bookstore called Eraser Books, which is located at Wenlingjie, which is not too far away from the military museum itself. So that concluded the Kunming leg of our trip, and the next stop that we were heading to would be Dali, which is a place that I've heard about for a really long time and I was really excited to visit.